Welcome to the Movie Film Show. Wow, that's weird to say. I'm Carl, and this is the first ever The Movie Film Show. Now, you may have noticed we've recently changed the channel name like a week ago, and if you want to know why we did that, we did a video on it just on Saturday, or should I say I did a video on that on Saturday. You can check it out at the card right up there if you haven't seen why. So what is The Movie Film Show, and how does it differ from everything else we've done on this channel in the past year? Well, The Movie Film Show it's basically going to be the central hub of the channel now. Every week, we're going to feature some movie or possibly a couple of movie reviews that, would take up space on the channel, smaller ones. Like for example, we did a review of Red Dot recently, and I intentionally did a shorter review of it. I didn't intend for it to be less than 2 minutes, but it did end up being less than 2 minutes, and something like that would be perfect to be on the Movie Film Show. So each week we're going to feature different movie reviews, possibly multiple movie reviews within one show. On top of that, we're going to talk about the latest movie news, and there's definitely a lot of it coming around now. We're also going to react to trailers. It's a better chance for me to interact with you guys on a more personal level rather than just talk about movies, even though that's the whole point of the channel. What I mean is just have a show where I go, here's a movie, here's what it's about, and here's what I think, see you later. This show is going to be a little bit more personal about this, where I can have more interaction with you guys hopefully further down the line, and maybe even someday we'll do some live shows and have some live chatting there if that's something people are interested in. So hopefully that clarifies what the aim of the Movie Film Show is going to be. It's basically a lot of movie content compacted into one every week, every single Monday. It's a big commitment, but we're going to get there. So without further ado, let's find out what's on the show this week. So coming up on the Movie Film Show today, we're going to be taking a look at Carey, the new movie on Apple Plus TV streaming service thing. On top of that, the BAFTA nominations came out this week, and shockingly, Carey Mulligan was snubbed. What's that all about? And we'll be revealing how you can watch the Snyder Cut of the Justice League if you live in the UK or Ireland. And we'll talk about some other stuff too. So we're in the middle of award season. The Golden Globes have come, I think. I wasn't really paying too much attention to those, but the BAFTAs have had their nominations. They're kind of like the crappy Oscars. By the time the show goes out, the Academy Award nominations should be out, but they're going to be out too late to feature in the show, but we'll definitely talk about them on next week's show. So if you've got an opinion about them, let me know in the comments, and I might feature your comment on next week's Movie Film Show. So the BAFTA nominations had a lot of surprises in it. While they don't always perfectly line up with the Academy Awards, generally we get a similar line of thinking of where the two academies are going. But there was some surprising snubs in the BAFTAs. So let's take a look at some of the nominations. So for Best Film this year, we've got The Father, The Mauritian, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, and Trial of Chicago 7. Pretty solid 5 movies. As I stated when I reviewed Promising Young Woman, I think that should win a lot of awards. I think it's a very, very good movie. Fantastic from Carey Mulligan, fantastic from Emerald Fennell as directing and writing, and I think the film's just overall very enjoyable and one of the best movies I watched this year. Now it does look like it's not going to pick up too many awards based on what other people are saying and the betting, and Nomadland picking up pretty much everything, but I still think that is one of the best movies, although I do have to state that I have not seen Nomadland because it hasn't come out here in Ireland just yet. But later on, we will talk about how you can watch that later on this year. Trial of Chicago 7, definitely an outside shot for the best film, but I don't think it's quite as good as Promising Young Woman for me. I'm sure other people enjoyed that one more. I did really enjoy that, how I reviewed that as well. I feel like I say that for a lot of movies. For Nomadland, I don't want to say Promising Young Woman is definitely better because I can't say that. I haven't seen it, but I will see it at some point. I'll have a movie review and then I'll tell you whether that should or shouldn't win based on my opinion. But let me know if you've seen Nomadland and Promising Young Woman, I almost said it. If you've seen both films, let me know your opinions, which is better. And then you've got The Father and The Mauritian, and outside shot of picking up the award. I think the BAFTAs like to be controversial sometimes, so they might just pick one of those just for the sake of it. This part, I'm definitely going to botch some names here, because up for Best Director, Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round, Shannon Murphy for Baby Teeth, I'll be honest with you, haven't heard of either of those movies, Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, who's fully expected to win a lot of awards. I am expecting Nomadland to be feckin' phenomenal. You got Jamila Jabanic, Kvadia, I probably really messed that up, and then Sarah Gavran for Rocks. But the one person who isn't nominated for Best Director is Emerald Fennell. You might be saying, oh, but maybe she's not British. She is British. I double checked, I triple checked. She's a British actress, she's been in a lot of things, and this is her first feature film, I believe. Why she's not nominated for Best Director, I don't really know. That seems like an insane snub. Maybe they just forgot that she was British. For the BAFTAs not to acknowledge her for making such a good movie, regardless of whether you think it's the best movie of the year, I think she fully deserved a nomination at least for Best Director. But then again, maybe the BAFTAs only want so many women nominated. A lot of women have made a lot of great movies this year, and you know, they just seem to want to throw some guys in there for the sake of it. Up for Best Actor at the BAFTAs this year, you got Riz Ahmed for Sound of Metal, you got Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, you got Adarish Gurav for The White Tiger, apologies for that, messing up his name, Anthony Hopkins for The Father, Mads Mikkelsen for Another Round, Tahar Rahim for The Mauritian. All pretty solid. Sacha Baron Cohen maybe could be up there for Trial of Chicago 7, possibly. He's really good in that one. I don't think for Borat, but definitely for Trial of Chicago 7, he was really good. Eddie Redmayne as well, Trial of Chicago 7, fantastic. Perhaps missed out there too. But who do you think has been the best British actor? Do they all have to be British for the BAFTAs? I think that's the way it works. And then the category that shocked me the most, leading actress. The nominations for leading actress at the BAFTAs this year. So the nominations go like this. We've got, oh, I'm definitely gonna mess this one up. Buki Bakray for Rocks. I apologize if that's wrong. I definitely messed that name up. I'm gonna get a lot of these names wrong. Rada Blank for The 40-Year-Old Virgin. 40-Year-Old Version. Is that a movie? The 40-Year-Old Version, not to be mixed up with The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Weird choices like title, when you know it sounds similar to another movie, unless it's like a parody, that seems like a weird choice to go with that title. Never heard of that movie, but that just might be my ignorance. Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman, Frances McDormand for Nomadland, who I fully expect to win, Wunmi Mosaku, His House, Alfred Woodard for Clemency. A lot of those I haven't heard of, I'm gonna be fully honest. I haven't seen a lot of those movies, haven't heard most of those actresses. I'm sure they're all fantastic actresses, but the one name glaringly missing off that list, another British actress, Carey Mulligan. And it seems like I'm just going on and on and on about Promising Young Woman. And I definitely did that in my movie review about Promising Young Woman, perhaps a little too much, but I really loved that movie. And you can check out how much I loved it right up here. But Carey Mulligan was fantastic in that movie. And she's been a fantastic actress in many movies, but I still think this is one of her best performances. And if that's one of her best performances, considering all the great performances she's had down the years, it's shocking that she's been snubbed for a nomination here. Surely she's going to get an Academy Award nomination for her performance. And personally, I think she should be in with a solid shout of winning because she was fantastic in that movie. It's a weird one from the BAFTAs. They definitely have some interesting choices in there. I'm not saying any people are undeserving of their nominations, certainly not. I'm sure a lot of people put a lot of hard work in there. And just because I haven't seen some of their performances doesn't mean that they're not deserving of the nominations, of course. Just the ones I have seen, it's hard to understand why these people weren't nominated. You know, Eddie Redmayne's fantastic in Trial of Chicago 7. Sacha Baron Cohen steals the show in Trial of Chicago 7. Emerald Fennell, for me, made one of the best movies last year and hasn't been nominated for Best Director. And then the biggest shock is Carey Mulligan puts in one of the best performances I've seen in years and doesn't get a nomination for the BAFTAs. What the hell's going on, BAFTAs? The only way the BAFTAs could be worse with their nominations is if they were the IFTAs. That's the Irish Film and Television Awards, which you don't want to see that train wreck. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Should Carey Mulligan have been nominated for a BAFTA? Is she going to get an Academy Award nomination? You'll probably know by the time the show goes out if she's got one, because I say the Academy Award nominations should be out by the time this show is out. So if she hasn't got it, let me know in the comments and let me know your opinion on her missing out on it. Hopefully she does get it, because I think she's fantastic. She's only got one Oscar nomination to her name as far as I'm aware, which is just amazing because she's a phenomenal actress. She's been in some great movies. So that's some of the BAFTA nominations, some of the main categories and my opinions on it. I'd love to know yours. Zack Snyder's cut of the Justice League comes out this week. Up until just a couple of days ago, here in Ireland, I wasn't sure how I was going to get to watch it. Was I going to have to go through some nefarious means? Maybe a VPN? You know, I wasn't quite sure how I was going to get to see it because they'd only announced it was going to be on HBO Max in America. And that's not available here in Ireland or the UK or I think in Europe either. So we were left wondering on this side of the Atlantic Ocean if we were going to get to see the movie or whether we'd have to just try find clips online or see other people's reviews. But it has been announced this week that the Snyder Cut of the Justice League will be available on Sky Cinema. Not on Netflix, not on Amazon, not even on Apple TV, Sky Cinema. If you don't live in Ireland or the UK or possibly even Europe, You may not know that Sky is the biggest TV provider over here. They're basically cable, but they charge a lot of money. And I know HBO charge a lot of money in America, so it's kind of similar, but Sky is a TV station, they're not a streaming service. Now they do have Now TV, which is their streaming service, which they are going to put it on as well, so technically they do have a streaming service, but you have to pay like a day pass for that. You don't do a monthly subscription. I think you can do a monthly subscription, but it's very expensive. You know, you're probably gonna have to spend some money on this unless you do some stuff that you shouldn't, but I'd recommend not doing that because that's illegal. But at least somehow, some way, we are gonna get to see the Snyder Cut, whether you're looking forward to that or not. Personally, my opinion and what I'm expecting from the Snyder Cut of the Justice League, it very much falls back in the old saying of, you can't polish a turd. And let's be honest, the Justice League was a giant turd. Most of the DC films have been really bad, especially by comparison to the Marvel films, which they're always going to be put up against. And even if they just want to stick to the DC side, Batman's already got some phenomenal movies with the Nolan films that they're never going to better with the Batfleck. But I'm certainly going to check out the Snyder Cut of the Justice League, and if there's enough worthy changes in there, I might even do a video, maybe even a variant of original versus reboot, where we take the original, we compare it to the recut and see which is better, although maybe it's a case of which is worse. But certainly I want to know, are you guys hyped for this? Are you looking forward to the Snyder Cut of the Justice League, and can he fix it? Can he really do that much to it to fix it? Obviously he's been doing reshoots, it's basically a different movie because they've done so many reshoots, but again, you can't polish a turd, or can you? Or will you just end up with shitty hands? In a similar vein, King Kong vs. Godzilla, that's also been announced that's coming out here in Ireland and the UK one day after it comes out in America. I think that's coming out on HBO Max in America as well, and here it's going to be coming out to rent, so I assume you have to pay like $5.99 or however much it costs to rent a movie nowadays. You're going to have to pay that to see it the next day on whatever streaming services. I assume it's just going to be on like PlayStation and the Google Store, and you can rent it anywhere, so that's one thing. And then Nomadland, which still isn't out here in Ireland, is coming out on Disney Star, on Disney Plus Star. Yeah, all the streaming services are getting something. Even the traditional renting of movies is even getting a thing. It's times like this you'd really miss Blockbuster or Extravision. I'm just disappointed you can't get them on VHS, so add to my Phantom Menace collection. So there is some interesting movies coming out in the future, but speaking of streaming services, one streaming service I always forget is even a thing nowadays, Apple. Apple have their own streaming service, Apple TV Plus. And just this week, Carey came out on Apple Plus, a movie I've been waiting to see for a while. So the thing with the movie film show moving forward is that with stuff like this and other things, as I mentioned, we'll have movie reviews on the channel. That's what we're going to do with Carey now. What we're going to do is we're going to feature a spoiler-free review here on the movie film show, and then later in the week, we're going to do a bigger deep dive into the movie where we can talk more about the movie, have more spoilers and everything, talk about specific scenes, and get a little bit more in detail on the review. So if you haven't seen Carey, you can certainly check out this part, there won't be any spoilers, and then you can go away, watch it on Apple TV Plus or whatever it's called, come back on Friday for a full review, and we can exchange opinions on this movie. It's certainly an interesting movie. It's got a lot going for it and it's got a lot against it. It's possibly the most interesting movie I've watched in 2021. The movie stars Tom Holland and was directed by the Russo brothers, who you'll know from the big Marvel movies, Endgame, Infinity War. They did a pretty good job with a lot of those, although I do have opinions on Endgame, which will come out towards the later half of the year. But I was looking forward to this movie because the Russo brothers did a good job with Marvel. Tom Holland has been really good in Spider-Man and a lot of other things I've seen him in. On IMDb, the story is listed as an army medic suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder who becomes a serial bank robber after an addiction to drugs puts him in debt. So it's going to be hard to keep this one spoiler-free. I really want to jump into the full review. I'm probably going to record that right after this because I really want to talk about the movie. So as the story outlines, it's about a young guy who meets a girl, falls in love, they break up, and when they break up, he's upset, so he joins the army. And when he goes to the army, he sees some shit, and then he comes home with PTSD, and he ends up getting addicted to drugs, mainly because the doctor says to him, have you tried Oxycontin? And he goes, yeah, I'll try drugs. And then he gets addicted to it. And then his girlfriend gets addicted to it. And he kind of ends up going down a rabbit hole. It's a very interesting story of seeing a person go down a rabbit hole and bringing someone with them, and two of them, you know, kind of ruining their lives and then trying to come out of that, and the lows they constantly go to chase that high. For me, this movie has a lot of interesting stuff to it. The story itself is fantastic. I just think the storytelling wasn't as strong as it could have been. And we'll get into that on Friday. The movie's over 2 hours. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes, not including credits. You might think, oh, that's a long movie. Well, yeah, when this movie finished, I was like, wow, that was a long movie. And you know, sometimes you get a movie that's really long and it just zips by and you're like, wow, how long was that movie? Like an hour and a half? Well, this movie kind of does the opposite. I have my theory as to why it's like that, but the weird thing is, it's a long movie, but I don't think I ever found myself bored because a lot happens. And I think that's why the movie feels so long, is because so much happens within those 2 hours. Really hard not to spoil it here and just talk about specific scenes. One major plus for this movie is Tom Holland, who perhaps is the hardest working man in Hollywood recently. So on top of all the Marvel stuff he's done, Spider-Man, he's been in Onward with Chris Pratt as well. He's been in The Devil All the Time. He's been in Chaos Walking, which is a newer movie. He did a voiceover in Dr. Dolittle, and now he's in Carey as well. I think there's a reason why he's getting cast in all these roles, because this movie outlines what a fantastic actor Tom Holland is. This is definitely the best performance I've seen from Tom Holland. It's a very mature role for someone who's still very, very young, and he does the role exceptionally well, plays it exceptionally well. And Kira Bravo as well, who's also in it, playing opposite him. She plays his wife, or his girlfriend slash wife. She's very good in the movie as well. And they kind of do have a good chemistry. They do fit well, even though at certain times in the movie I found myself thinking, if someone told me Kira Bravo was like 14 or 15 years old, I'd fully believe it. She's very young looking for this type of movie, but it kind of played well towards the end, made a lot of sense as to why they paired up the two. They do work as an on-screen couple. And both actors are fantastic in it. I think they play some tough roles really well, but Tom Holland arguably could have been up for an award for his performance. I think his performance is very, very strong. The deterioration of a young guy and how his life kind of just takes a downward turn, and he portrays that very, very well, does a very good job with it. Now, I'm trying not to spoil things, but I will say one bad thing with this movie, and you'll notice it if you go and watch the movie if you haven't seen it already, is the movie kind of doesn't know what it wants to be style-wise. Now, the movie looks fantastic, but the first half of the movie has a lot of things that the second half of the movie doesn't. But at the start, there's stuff like there's scenes where Tom Holland's character takes drugs, and the style of the movie changed. There's a very stylistic look, like it's white and black, black and white, but predominantly white and then black, and Tom Holland's the only thing in color. And then there's also voiceovers from Tom Holland, which reminded me at the time of like Robert De Niro style voiceovers explaining what was happening, or what had happened, or what characters were thinking, in the vein of like Casino. It very much reminded me of that type of voiceover, but that only happens for like the first hour of the movie and then stops happening. And in the same way, in the first hour, there's a lot of times where Tom Holland looks right down the camera, breaks the fourth wall, and talks directly to the audience, but then doesn't do that later in the movie. It's almost like both Russo brothers took 1 hour of the movie and said, okay, I'll make my movie, you make your movie, and we'll see what happens. Which is why I say that the storytelling within the movie is perhaps what lets it down, despite it being a good story and good acting and visuals being good. The movie has a lot going for it, but it's also got a lot against it. When the movie was finished, I sat there in silence going, what, was it a good movie? Was it a bad movie? I don't really know. Well, I do know now after thinking about it. It's definitely an interesting movie, but I'm gonna save my rating for the full review on Friday. So if you wanna see my full thoughts on it, you're gonna have to come back to the Movie Film Show on Friday and check out the full review. So, you know, you might wanna hit that subscribe button, notification bell, and that'll tell you exactly when the review is up. So there we have it, the end of the very first The Movie Film Show. But if you're still eager for more movie film content, we've got a video right over here for you to check out. And of course, all the other usual YouTube stuff, like, comment, share, subscribe, notification bell, all of that. But with all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching.